Greetings, Captains. I am Wizard, and welcome to another modded Starfield ship build guide. This is the Typhon. This ship is a Class C battlecruiser designed to be the ultimate statement of achievement in the settled systems. Whether you are a master bounty hunter, a pirate overlord, or even a seasoned Starborn that has been through the Unity countless times, this ship is perfect for you. The Typhon is 132 meters long by 98 meters wide, 7 Hab module units tall, and has a mass of 9,584. Despite the mass, it has a mobility of 100, with a top base cruising speed of 200, and can reach 1,650 plus top boost speed. It has a hull rating of 10,500, shield rating of 15,000, a cargo rating of over 32,000, a crew capacity of 25, and a jump range of 30 light years. Despite being a C-class ship, the Typhon outperforms every ship that's out there. It's faster and potentially more maneuverable thanks to its ability to change speeds than most Class A ships that are out there. And it has significantly more firepower and defenses than any M-class ship that's out there in the vanilla game as well. This is, of course, thanks to a few mods that I will go over in the requirements section, but I still choose to use a majority of vanilla-styled parts as I feel they fit the universe of Starfield best. If you prefer a heavily modded aesthetic, Avon Tech and Daratech parts are great, but for this one I decided to show off more on the interior of the ship, and so it also includes the Fortuna Hab mod, which gives you this Hab module. So without further ado, let me show you step by step how to build the Typhon, what mods are required, and what you are able to achieve when flying this ship in Starfield. If you've just found my channel, welcome and thank you for being here. If you're new to Starfield, you might be interested in learning about beautiful planets where you can build a home base like Indigo Ridge, and you're definitely looking for a way to make credits so you can build more ships. You can build this Vitinium mine at level 14, and that can be expanded upon to create passive income. This can all be found in my Outpost Guide playlist. Along with the Outposts, I also have a fully vanilla fleet of ship builds. Everything from fighters to corvettes to destroyers and even heavy cargo ships. There is sure to be something in my vanilla Starship archive that you will thoroughly enjoy. Please check that out. And of course, I have now expanded into doing modded ship builds as well. I started with the Krakatoa, and I previously built the Kronos. And of course now this includes this current ship, the Typhon. Check out the modded Starship archive. And then I have the Becoming a God playlist, which is a series of combat videos following my character, starting with absolutely no combat skills and trying to achieve the acquisition of every combat skill plus all of these Starborn powers. I've made 3 episodes of this so far, and I'm having great fun exploring the settled systems. Please check that out, and thank you very much. If you want to build the Typhon exactly as I do in this video, you'll need to be at character level 93 if you're an NG plus 8, or level 103 if you're an NG plus 1. These are level requirements for the DarkStar ship modules that are used in this build. You'll need 2,090,000 credits, that's at Commerce rank 4, and with the DarkStar VIP mode turned off. Now, as a disclaimer, I do not own an Xbox, so I can't check mod availability or functionality, but if you join my Discord, we would be happy to help you with any issues you're having with any one of my builds or any mods. Whether you're on PC or Xbox, it does not matter at all. So the mods that you'll need for this, some are available on Xbox, but all of these are available on PC, and all of the links are in the description to the Nexus mod pages for each of these mods. You'll need DarkStar Astrodynamics, Matilija's Aerospace, the Fortuna Habs mod, place doors yourself, no reactor limit, no engine power limit, no shield power limit, no weapon power or count limits. You'll need the Ship Builder Module Limit Remover, Ship Size Limit, Ship Module Snap and Flips Expansion. And if you are on PC, in order to be able to clip parts into each other, you can either add the line that you see on screen to your StarfieldCustom ini, or there are also mods that you can download that do this and more. Just make sure to check the description of the mods so that you don't have any conflicts. To start the Typhon build, I had to get a ship. So I went to the Vulture's Roost on Jaffa 4 and obtained the Dagger. Of course, this is just the ship that I chose to start with, and your starting ship does not matter whatsoever. So once you have chosen your starter ship, get into your builder, highlight your ship, and delete it. Now, as always, we're going to start with our landing bay. And as I've used on several other ships, we're going with a Deimos 120 LD in aft orientation. Attached to the front of the landing bay, we're going to place a Deimos belly. And then for our first Hab module, we are going to enter the ship into a HopeTech 3x3 cargo hull. And we want this positioned with the landing bay attached to the center point of the cargo hull. Now, just like the Kronos, we are using place doors yourself again, so as you know, you now need to place each and every door and passageway between your Habs manually. So what I want to do first is place 3 doors on the front of the 3x3 cargo hull, and attached to the center door, we need a HopeTech 1x1 storeroom. Now, one of the cool features about this ship that I think I achieved was that this 1x1 serves as, it doesn't function as one, but it's basically an airlock for the docking bay. So we're going to have a door on the front and rear of the 1x1, and you'll be able to traverse your interior all the way around this airlock without going through it if you so choose. I wish we could have an actual airlock Hab module. That would be very cool, but this will have to do for now. So on either side of the 1x1, I placed a workshop and a science lab. And then on the rear of the 3x3 cargo hull, I chose a 2x1 HopeTech infirmary. I, of course, like to have these located very close to the entrance of the ship. It's really for RP reasons. It's not like you ever have to carry anyone to an infirmary in an emergency, but I do like to build things in a sensible way, so that was just where I chose to place it. Now, attached to the front of the docking bay airlock, we need a HopeTech engineering bay 3x1. And then we need to add passways to the side of that in just a moment. But first, I'm going to take this Deimos belly and move it in front of the docking port, because we're actually going to place something else where it was before. Now, attached to the front of the belly, you need a Stroud mid bracer. And attached to the mid bracer, you need a nose cap B from Stroud. Now, I'm placing those doors off to the side of the ship so that I can easily duplicate them and place them elsewhere as I'm building. So that way I don't always have to scroll through my menu, as you see here, to find a door. But here, I actually did go with a passway instead of a door, because when I went through the ship, it felt better to have these Habs sort of partitioned off in a... multiple Habs were kind of put together and partitioned off in sections so that it felt a little bit larger on the inside in more places. So go ahead and put a passway on either side of your engineering bay there instead of the doors. I do switch those later. You'll see that in the video. But just like I mentioned before, I want to keep one of these doors out in space so that I can easily duplicate them and place them elsewhere on the ship. So this is the hab layout for the lower deck of the ship. And of course, we are going to need some ladders. So that, thanks to the Place Doors Yourself mod, that includes manually placed ladders. It's not just doors. So the first ladder we want to place is right here in the center of the 3x3 cargo hall. And then just move one out in space somewhere so that you can quickly and easily duplicate that and use them elsewhere on the ship. We're going to need several more of those. So let's place our center fuselage landing gear really quick. We need 6 DarkStar XL09 Stroud belly landers on either side of the docking bay and landing bay. So place 3 of them like so, and then duplicate one over to the other side and duplicate that 2 more times to give you a total of 6, just like this. Now just behind, we need 2 Stroud Cap A's. And then in front of the landing gear, we are going to do a Stroud Cowling 1LA with the sort of stripe first, and then just in front of that is the more blank and smooth one that does not have that stripe feature. Now just in front of these 2, we need 2 more Stroud Cap A's to finish off the underside of the nose of the ship. Now that we have our landing gear, we can attach our replacement piece for the Deimos belly, and it's going to be a Nova radiator flipped around to this orientation, which was not possible in the vanilla game, and that is thanks to the Snap and Flips expansion mod. So with our lower deck laid out, we're going to build a few more things around these hab modules while we're here. First thing is 2 Galleon S204 cargo holds. And then our second ladder is going in the center of the HopeTech 3x1 engineering bay. Now just in front of the cargoes, we want 2 Stroud nose cap C's, just like this. And then down here attached to the front of the engineering bay, we need a Stroud braking engine. Now moving to the rear of the ship, attached to the back of the 3x3 cargo hull, we need a Deimos Hull A on either side. And the extra snap points again are from the Snap and Flips expansion mod, also known as SMSEX. And then we want to duplicate both of these Stroud nose caps and place them right behind the Deimos Hull A's. Then on the back of the infirmary, we need a Nova Cowling 2LA. And that completes the main portion of the bottom of the ship. So now, moving back up to the nose, we want to attach a Deimos 1x1 to the ladder that we placed above the engineering bay. And on each side of that, only on the port side, we need another 1x1 with a doorway. And I did end up choosing a passway later on, because again, the whole sections of hab modules kind of idea that I had, and instead of having a door between each and every hab module. Now, moving up the ladder into the upper, or I should say the next deck of the ship, we need a 2x3 Nova Galactic Mess Hall. And we need to place a passway in the center, which I did change later on. You'll have to see in the interior walkthrough whether you want to do a passway or a door there, but I'll explain my decisions once we get to the interior walkthrough. So then in front of the mess hall, we need a Deimos 2x2 living quarters, and we need to place a door on the side. And through that door is a Deimos living quarters 3x1. Now onto the rear of the mess hall. We need a Nova 2x2 living quarters. This is, of course, the hab with the pool table. And then let's duplicate an aft door onto the back, both attachment points of the back of that living quarters. Now back on the nose of the ship, duplicate each of these nose cap C's one time. And just in front of the 1x1 where our nose ladder is going, we need a Deimos hull A. And then we're going to swing back around to the back of the ship. And attached to the back of the Nova 2x2, we are going to place the Matilija's 3x3x2 utility workroom. Now grabbing an aft door and placing it on this point on the Matilija hab, we're going to attach a Deimos 2x1 armory. And there is a reason that this isn't connected to the living quarters around it. You will see in the interior walkthrough. I think it's very cool. Now I know I'm jumping around a lot, but we're going to go back up to the nose, and attached to this ladder we are going to place a Stroud Armory 2x1. This is going to be the captain's personal armory. And just above that we also need a workshop for the captain. So a Stroud 2x1 workshop is in order just above the armory. Now we want to place a door 4 on the back of the workshop, and that will be the entrance door to the Fortuna hab, which I love. It's potentially my favorite feature of the interior of the ship, but there are others too that I think are really cool RP-friendly solutions. Now attached to the ladder on the top of the workshop, we need a Stroud storeroom 1x1. And then of course, we need a couple of doors. You want to skip one hab and go up from the 1x1 on the side here, but you want to place a Stroud 1x1 companionway, and one of those is going to go on each side of the workshop. So grab a port door and a starboard door, but I do end up switching these to passways later so you can save yourself some time. But now just duplicate that companionway and place it on the starboard side of the ship as well. And then we can quickly duplicate these S204 cargo holds and move them just above in between each of those hab units that are on each side of the ship. Now we can place our Fortuna hab, and I erroneously selected the empty, but I do switch this back to the furnished option, and of course this one is up to you. If you want to furnish it yourself, feel free. But I do choose the furnished one for the interior tour. They're the same size, so this choice is totally up to you. You can still build the ship just the same. Now, the only entrance to this hab is that front attachment point. So that's one of the major challenge about building with this hab, is that you can only enter from the front of the unit. So now let's place some passways for windows. I actually designed this ship around having a row of windows, sort of like a passenger liner, as I wanted to have some feeling of luxury to this ship as much as I could achieve, and that was part of the reason for building around the Fortuna hab. So on each side of the second deck of the ship, the upper lower deck, the one right under the Fortuna hab, we need 3 passways spaced out at every other attachment point, and then we need 1 passway above each of the front passways that we placed before. Now on the front of the top 1x1, of course we need another door, and that will get us into our Deimos Ares bridge. So that's the hab layout for the nose of the ship. We of course still have some structural modules to place, but we will get into that in the next section of the video. Now let's grab some more doors for our next series of hab modules that we are going to place. And just now I realized that I didn't put passways in between the mess hall and the surrounding living quarters. I really wanted this to feel like an open flow, you know, like it's one portion of the ship. So I do change both of these doors to passways. Fore and aft, or along, passway along. So that just eliminates the door hatch that comes with it. Now I was thinking about doing the same thing into the Matilija's hab, but I decided against it and just left all 3 of these as doors. Just feels more secure that way, and again, it's like a partitioning of the ship in sections instead of each and every hab module connection having a hatch that you have to open. So now I can replace my large habs that I moved, and this is one thing I love about place doors yourself, is that you can freely move habs around or change their variants. As long as you don't change the size of the hab, you can be totally and completely trusting of the fact that your doors will not move. So on the starboard side of the Matilija's hab on the lower deck, we need the Nova Galactic 2x2 all-in-one. And on the port side, we're going to go with a Stroud 2x2 living quarters. Now we need some doors on the back lower deck of the Matilija utility workroom. 1, 2, and 3. On the center door, we need a Stroud engineering bay empty 3x1. And then on either side of the 3x1, find your Stroud 2x1 section and do an all-in-one berth A and an all-in-one berth B. I chose these because they added 4 beds each, and I was trying to have as many beds as there was crew capacity on this ship. Now for doors on the upper deck, we need 1 on each side on the rearmost attachment point of the Matilija's upper deck, and 1 in the center of the rear. So attached to this door here, we need a Stroud 2x2 cargo hull. And this, to me, feels like more of a supply room versus a ship cargo hull. And on the rear door of the upper deck of the Matilija's hab, we need a Deimos 2x2 brig, which is right here. And then we are also, but we need it biased to the port side of the ship, just like I moved it to right there. And now I'm just adjusting my camera because if you noticed, I was really high. And we need a starboard door attached to the front point of the brig. And attached to that, we need a Deimos 2x1 armory. And you'll see why that is oriented or laid out like that in the interior walkthrough. Duplicate this port door on the Matilija's hab, and attached to that, we need a Stroud 2x2 brig. Yes, this ship has 2 brigs, and this is what makes it so good for bounty hunters. Now let's place a ladder at the front top point of the Matilija 3x3x2. And then copy that 1 more time. Now, attached to that ladder, we need a Deimos 2x2 engineering bay, biased to the starboard side of the ship. Now grab yourself a port door and place it on the rear point of that engineering bay. Attached to that, you need a Deimos 2x1 computer core. Like so. Grab an aft door, and you will need 1 on the back of the 2x2 here, and 1 on the back of the 2x1 computer core there. Attached to the back of the computer core, you need a Deimos Engineering Bay B, and then duplicate that, switch it to the Engineering Bay A 3x1 version, and attach it here. Now we can move that ladder we last duplicated and place it on top of the Deimos 2x2 Engineering Bay. And on top of this, we need a Stroud companionway, or a Deimos companionway. I know I chose a storeroom there, but it leaves a little cart with some barrels on it, and it gets in the way of the ladder and moving across from hab to hab. So we need a door on each side of this, because we are going to place 2 3x1s, and these are going to be, well, in terms of RP, of course, the function of this is not in the game, but The modules up here are intended to be living quarters for the engineering crew. So on the left side, find the Stroud all-in-one berth 3x1. And on the right side, you're going to choose a Deimos all-in-one berth 3x1. And that completes the Hab module layout for the Typhon. So now you can go and delete all of your extra doors and ladders that were hanging out in space. You don't need any of them anymore. And we can then move on to starting to style the fuselage of the Typhon. Now we need to add some styling to the fuselage of the ship. Start by duplicating another row of the Stroud nose cap Cs, and then just above the Stroud braking engine, attach a Typhon forward sensors. And since we're up here with our cargo units, let's quickly place some more of these where they need to go. Start by putting one up here behind the 3x1s on each side. Duplicate another and move it down just above the upper 2x2. And then duplicate both of these to the other side of the ship as well. With that done, we can go back to the nose, and just above the Typhon forward sensor, we need a Deimos hull A, and attached to the front of that, we need a HopeTech nose B. Now just above that, you need to find a HopeTech thruster. And the reason I arranged these in this way was to achieve a slight forward angle on the nose of the ship in a side view. Now, of course, there's no real way to blend that with the outer edge of the ship, so instead of just doing another row of nose cap Cs, I decided to fill this space with a combination of Deimos wings. Thanks to SMSEX, I was able to start with a Deimos wing B, and then attach a Deimos wing A to that. And the forwardmost point of this module is slightly further forward than the Stroud cap Cs, so it helps to kind of give the illusion of that tapered edge. Obviously mirror that to the other side, and then what you want to do is duplicate each of the wing Bs to start with, and move them up to the 1x1 just behind the bridge. After this, you'll want to duplicate each of those individually and move it to the opposite side, attached to the first one. And then you can duplicate your Deimos wing A's and shift them just above. So that closes out that level of the nose of the ship. And then just inside of the first Deimos wing A's that you placed, grab yourself a spine F and make sure it's oriented with that slight angle facing inboard and forward of the ship. And you'll see it just like this on each side, with those two small slots on the inside edges. With that completed, we're then going to move to the rear of the ship and start adding details to the core before we close the whole thing up. So start with a Deimos spine G, and on either side of the spine G attached to the Habs, you need two Deimos radiators, one here and one flipped over here. Now we need some windows in here, of course. So to do an up or downward facing window, you need an upright hole first. And of course, for front or rear facing windows, you need a passway along. And for side windows, you need a passway. But you can also use shutters for side or front and rear facing windows, but not for floor and ceiling windows. So for the top deck, I'm doing shutters because those are living spaces, and the deck below is all engineering, so I chose to go for passways so that the interior of the core was always visible from the engineering bays. So then I just decided to add a couple of attachment points using Typhon side cap Bs, and then we can attach some portholes. So all you have to do is use the attachment method, which is both triggers plus A, and on these parts in the structural tab, you should only get portholes as your option, so it's quick and easy to select your windows without having to scroll through the entire ship module menu. So place portholes over all of your passways and shutters, and then duplicate the side cap Bs and place them staggered just like this. So you'll have 6 windows and 4 equipment attachment points. And on the bottom 2 attachment points, we need 2 of the DarkStar XEQ conduction grids. I know I chose the MEQ, but just choose the XEQ. They perform better. Then we're going to place our first shield in the core, which is going to be a DarkStar XDA23C deflector array. And I used that 3D model, which is the same as the Assurance, for the internal core shield. Now attached to the back of the Deimos Spine G, you need a Matilija shield booster. And you do need another one right behind it, but you can't attach a shield booster to another shield booster for some reason. So we're going to use our grav drive as our attachment point for the second Matilija shield booster. So find the DarkStar XD60B grav drive and place that right there. Now before we stack our reactors, we're going to place a few structural modules, starting with 2 Stroud Cap A's down here on either side of the back of the Stroud 3x1. Just above that, we need a Stroud Nose Cap C on each side, and then duplicate those and move them up 2 Hab module units. Leave 1 space in between. Now we can stack our reactors, and yes, we are going to use 3 DarkStar XR62C Unity Core reactors. These are the smaller 3D models, so it's of course easier to fit all 3 of them. I stacked the modules in this way to make it look like it was all one unit, where the top and bottom were more mechanical, kind of look like they're feeding cooling to the center unit, which is what looks to me where the actual reactor is functioning from. Now on the back of the Stroud 3x1, we need a Deimos belly, and then we're going to take 2 more Stroud Cap A's and move them up to the top back there. Now, kind of as a mirror to the nose of the ship, we're going to again use 2 Deimos Wing B's attached to the side of the central reactor on both sides, and then of course, Deimos Wing E's attached to each of those. And this is also where we are going to attach some additional cargo to the back of the ship. And of course, make sure your wing is attached to the right snap point. So now, for these cargo units, I did go for the 300 cm ballast cargo holds. I choose the 400s right now, so my cargo rating until I switch these at the end is going to be erroneous, but I am going to show you the difference. So get the 300 cm cargo holds back there. Now to continue on with our styling of the main fuselage of the ship, we need 2 Stroud mid bracers on the rear of the lower 2x2 on the back, and then outside of that we need 2 Galleon S203 cargo holds. You want to flip them into the orientation you see here, with the angle on the lower outward facing side of the ship, like this and this. Now, as I said before, we're going to use 2 of these shield boosters, so there's 1 and 2 placed just like that, and the core is now finished. Now we're going to use 3 shields on this ship as well. So duplicate the shield you placed in the core and switch the model of that shield to this large spherical looking module and place 1 up here, and then swap it again after you duplicate to this smaller cylindrical shape shield right there. Now these are actually going to move back 1 more space once we get up there and start adding the details, which we're going to do right now. So first you need a Stroud mid bracer, but you can't attach this to anything right now. So first we need to build our other structural modules around the fact that the snapping points on the Fortuna Hab are off. You can see compared to the snap points below that they use a different spacing. So it only lines up in 2 places on that Hab. And so we're going to start back at the rear of the ship with the other top parts. First we need a Stroud cowling 1LB on each side. And then I went ahead and did the Stroud cowling 3LA on each side just forward of the first cowlings we placed. Once you have one on each side, you can duplicate both of them at the same time and attach them to the previous ones, and then do that again. Then take your striped variant of the Stroud cowling, the Stroud cowling 1LB, and move those all the way to the front of the 3x1s that you placed. And we still can't put that mid bracer in there, so I'm going to take 2 of the Stroud Cap A's and attach them to the front of those Stroud cowling 1LBs, one on each side. And then what we can do is duplicate this Stroud nose cap B and flip it and place it in between the 2 nose caps on either side of it. Now we can attach the mid bracer, and just behind the mid bracer we need a Deimos belly, and we'll just take this one from down here and flip it over. And now I can see that my shields are in fact incorrectly placed, so grab both of those and move them back 1 unit on the top of the Fortuna Hab. Now going back to the tail of the ship, we need another Stroud Cap C in the aft orientation. And then grab that forward mid bracer and duplicate it and place 3 of them just in front of that last nose cap that we placed. And then in this negative space in the ship, we're going to place 6 200 cm ballast shielded cargos. We're going to stagger them just like this. Right behind the last 2, we need another Nova radiator. And to me, this kind of looks like it's, you know, the intake for cooling for the core of the ship. And kind of the same thing on the bottom, some kind of an intake. And now I want to cover up all of these pink squares that are cluttering up the side of the ship. So grab a porthole on one of them and just start duplicating and moving them to each of their places. 4 on each side, and once you have them placed, you're done placing portholes. Now, of course, there is still work to do on the side of the ship and the top of the ship, as well as the lower of the tail of the ship, but we're going to get to that after we build the engines, because as you can see, we still have 3 errors in the builder. And at this point, I want to, well, not now, but I want to exit the builder as soon as possible and make a save, because this ship is huge. So let's get to building those engines, and then we can do just that. The Typhon's engine assemblies also include fuel tanks and the extra landing gear that we need to clear the builder checks. The sub-assemblies on each side of the ship at the rear are the start of our engine assemblies. So to get these going, we first need to go to the back of either the port or starboard side, doesn't matter, but we're going to attach our first engine to this point here. What you want to do is go to your engines tab, and I like to scroll all the way down through the DarkStar engines to make sure I am looking at the best available options. And DarkStar has class A, B, and C variants of every engine model that's in the game, and they all have varying stats. So I want to make this ship class A for the speed, so we need 3 X01A engines here. And mounted to the outside of those, we need 3 more, but they are the SA4X X01A engines. The first 3 are the B-class 3D models, and these second outer 3 are the A-class 3D models from the vanilla game. Now you want to select all 6 of these, duplicate them, and move them forward 2 units and out 2 as well, and mount them to the middle outside attachment point at the bottom of the starting engine mounts. Now select the 3 SAE X01As and duplicate them into the positions that they go. And then I just grab one of these 4X X01As, flip it into position, and then duplicate and flip and duplicate and flip. Then you can grab all 3 of these, duplicate them, and attach them to the first 3 engines over here. So that's all of our engines placed. Now we can get some fuel tanks in here. And believe it or not, we're actually going to add 6 more of those S204 Galleon cargo units as well. But for the fuel tanks, I chose the DarkStar MDF discrete option. And you can see the 3D models that I chose for those. And then, of course, you want to grab one of your S204s and duplicate it 2 more times to get 3 more of them here. And then grab all 3 of those and duplicate them over to the opposite side. Now here I am realizing that I have incorrectly chosen the cargo units at the rear of the ship, so I switched them back to the appropriate 300 cm ballast cargo holds. And this is what you need. Now, moving back to the engines, sorry for the interruption, we need a Stroud Cowling 1LB, and you want one here. And then you want a 1LA on the front and rear of that. Well, we're going to grab all 3 of those, but just inside of the cowlings, we need 2, or is it 3? I can't remember now. Let's see, 3 of these Stroud mid bracers. Grab all 3 of those and move them to the opposite side. And then you can select your 1LA Stroud cowling, flip it to the correct orientation on the opposite side, then get a 1B, and then copy the 1LA again so that you have 3 just like this on both sides of the ship. Copy those 3 again, and you want them above and in front of, above the cargo and in front of the engines down here, and then you want to again duplicate all 3 of those in the bottom orientation under the 3 cargo units. And we need to do that on the other side as well. Select all 3 of these, and then you'll have to grab one to flip it to the underside orientation. And you also need a mid bracer just above the smaller fuel tanks on the outer part of the engines as well. And here I am duplicating the Stroud cowlings on the port side of the ship. Flip one, copy it, and then copy the original. So now we need to add our landing gear. And what I did is I just moved these from opposite sides, but really the variant you're looking for is the one that does not have a slope on the inside of it. You want the more boxy looking one. And I do switch that later, but I will show you. And now you can also see that our builder has thrown us an error that our docker is now suddenly in an invalid position. So I'm going to delete that for now, and we are going to find a temporary solution so that we can leave the builder and make a save. But first we want to duplicate these Stroud caps. And once you have it duplicated, grab the top ones and move them here. And the bottom ones go just below with one space in between. Now again, duplicate all 4 of those and move those to the inner engine nacelles. Now we want to duplicate these to the opposite side of the ship as well. So start with the nose cap Bs, and then you can duplicate these Stroud caps that are already in the correct orientation and just move them into place. Once you have those positioned, you can then again select all 4 of these Stroud caps and move them down to the outer engine nacelle on the starboard side of the ship. Now let's get our lateral supports in place. And thanks to the Snap and Flips mod, I now can place these Deimos bellies in a lateral orientation. And this is a very useful thing to have the ability to do for this style, I guess, of engine nacelle design. I wanted it to have that, really downward angled look. And these are really the only modules that give you that slight slope that just works really well in this case. So I really like these pieces as a solution to this problem of a lack of more uniform angles that can be used to create a design that looks more uniform and approached holistically. So that's all of the Deimos bellies placed for the wings, I guess, or the engine nacelles, and you can see the nice angle that is achieved when using them like I did here. So now on the front of the cargo modules, we need a Deimos hull A, and then on the front of that, we need a Deimos braking engine. Then you want to grab those and duplicate them up to the inner nacelles, and duplicate those again to move them to the opposite side. And the inner and outer engine nacelles the same way as the port side of the ship. With the braking engines in position, we can now close up the gaps here and there and finish off the shape of these by using some Deimos bumpers. So on the insides of the outer nacelles, you need a Deimos mid bumper and fore bumper, and then you want to match that but offset the position just like you see here on the outside of the engine, and then take the mid and aft bumper and duplicate them up to the inner nacelle. Grab an aft bumper and place that right behind the Deimos bellies under the inner nacelle, and then a Deimos wing A clipped into this Deimos bumper 4. And now it's just a matter of mirroring this over to the other side of the ship. The engine orientation for the Typhon was based on the Basilisk. I really like the tapered and angled look of the Basilisk engines, and I wanted something bigger and beefier and more powerful looking for this ship. And that was part of what drove the name of the Typhon, as the Typhon is a larger and more powerful serpentine mythological creature than the Basilisk. Basilisks were significantly less powerful, and even though this ship takes inspiration from the Basilisk, it is by far and away a superior ship. Now for the intake details on the engines, we're going to place Nova radiators, one unit back from the front of the nacelle intakes, and then we need Stroud engine bracer Bs in front of the radiators. Now the relationship between this engine bracer B on the inside and the modules that I choose on the outsides of the fuselage work really well together. And the final touch for the engines is to just add a Deimos spine A just in front of the Deimos bellies on the tops of each of the outer engine nacelles. Now we need to address the error that the builder threw us about the Docker being in an invalid position, even though, as you will see, it is going to work, but for some reason the builder just didn't want to let me keep it down there. And you can still see here that this Docker choice, the 110DP Docker, also doesn't work in this position. So add a ladder to the top of the 1x1, and then duplicate that 1x1, and place the Docker on top of that. And that will clear the error. But, you know me, I'm going to use the slim Docker, so I might as well choose it here. So you can see the error is cleared. And now if you want, exit the builder now and make a quick save. But all we have left to do is finish the sides of the fuselage, and then we can do all of our weapons and paint and all of the finishing touches. So to get the sides of the fuselage completed, we need to start with Nova cowling 2 Ls. And of course you want the front and rear facing ones, and then you want to select all 3 together to move them up into this position. Now we have an unattached module error. So what we need to do is fill the gaps in between. These ones are okay down here, everything snaps, but outside of the Fortuna Hab, you have to have these, as you can see there. The error cleared, but you have to bridge those gaps. Now again, duplicate the aft 2L and the mid bracer, And what you want to do is run a series of 8 of the mid cowlings along the side of the ship as so, and then duplicate another one of your 4 Nova cowlings just in front of the series of the 8 mid cowlings. Now grab the rear and flip it to the other side, and then you can just duplicate this and flip it to the mid orientation, place it just in front. And again, we want 8 of these, and then a Nova cowling 2L4 orientation. Port 4, I guess. Now duplicate that again, move it straight down, and one more time. And then we need to grab one of our Deimos spine Gs and flip it to the port orientation. And then we can duplicate one of the mid cowlings, duplicate the spine G, and duplicate the cowling and flip it to the aft orientation. Now you can grab the spine, the mid, and the rear and move them up, attached to the forward Nova cowling on that row. Now delete those spines. They were a temporary placeholder because we need equipment attachments here for turrets. So what we're going to use is the Deimos Wing D, and I chose to flip them so that the angle of the front and rear of the wings talk to the angle of the Nova cowling on either end. So there's a little bit of an offset in the center, but it's pretty unnoticeable once we get the turrets attached here. And of course you need to duplicate both of these and flip them around to work on the opposite side. And you'll see when I place the second one that our error again goes away. So that's the side of the ship styled, and now we have a few details left to add. We need a Deimos radiator here. Just in front of that, we need a Deimos spine C, and just in front of that, a Deimos spine A. The intent of these features on the top of the ship was to look like a communications array, so of course we need more of an antenna, and a HopeTech marker works perfect for that. Now, attached to the Deimos spines on the angled points here, we're going to go for a DarkStar XEQ comm spike, and we're going to use one of those on each side of the spine. And the last thing we have left to place for equipment is the DarkStar Scan Jammer. This is the XEQ version, just like the other DarkStar equipment modules. And here I am realizing that I used the MEQ conduction grids. So got into the core, deleted the MEQs, and attached the correct DarkStar XEQ conduction grids on each side in place of the MEQs. Once I was done with that, I could then close the core back up, and that's complete. Our equipment is in place. Now the last touch before we move on to mounting weapons is a few weapon mounts. So we need equipment plates in the rear of the ship, top and bottom. And then towards the nose of the ship, we need to add a Deimos Wing E right here on each side. And now the ship is ready for its weapons. When I built the Kronos, I didn't know which weapons I wanted to use, so I experimented with several different loadouts, and based on that experience, for the Typhon I decided to simply use DarkStar weapons. So I'm using the DarkStar MP06B Disintegrator Auto Beams, and I'm using 6 of them, and I attached all of them to the Nova cowlings, and I also chose ballistic weapons, so we also need 6 DarkStar MB06A Destroyer autocannons. Now for the turrets, DarkStar again, I chose the DarkStar MP07B Defender Auto Turrets. You need 2 on each side of the ship, mounted to the top of the Deimos wings. And then the last 2 turrets are going to go on the rear of the ship, attached to the equipment plates that we placed at the end of the last chapter. Now I have two errors, one of which is due to me switching back to the 400 cm ballast cargo holds on the rear of the ship. So we need to make sure we have the 300 cm ballast cargo holds selected back here, and you will see my errors drop from 2 to 1, and the last error is just that I have unassigned weapons. So at this point, go ahead and assign your weapons, and now you can go and make a quick save of the ship to make sure you don't lose your progress. Once you have a save in place, re-enter the builder, and the first thing that you need to do is correct the docker position. So move the nose cap back into place after you delete that temporary 1x1. And then you can flip the slim docker to the bottom of the ship where it is supposed to go. And now you can see that we are nominal. So I don't know why that error was caused, but if you get the same thing, that's the best solution. Find a different temporary solution and then move the docker back to where you want it to be. So now that our ship is complete, there's just one more piece of structural detail that I want to add, and it is to the underside of the tail of the ship. We need a Deimos spine A right here, just behind the Stroud nose caps, and then we need another one flipped to aft, just behind, two spaces behind the landing bay. Move that Deimos spine C just in front of that spine A, and flip it into this orientation. Now we need another spine A flipped to aft, and the Deimos radiator between these two. Grab all three of these, duplicate them, and move them to the opposite side. Now attached to the spine C, just behind the landing bay, you want to pick two Matilija's Aerospace ship spotlights in the aft orientation. Full disclosure, I built this ship pre-buggy patch, and it just so happens that the buggy spawns right in the spotlight of the port Matilija spotlight. Now when I left my builder to make a save, I walked through the ship and found where I needed to swap doors for passways. So the first switches are up here on the port side of the ship. I changed both of those doors to passways. And same thing on just this upper 1x1 here, as there is no door between the 3x1 and the 1x1 with the ladder on the deck that is just below the cargo module. But I also found that placing the Deimos living quarters in the nose of the ship there with the door where it was eliminated two beds. So I decided to move the living quarters in place of the Deimos all-in-one berth up here. So this is now the Deimos living quarters in the top of the ship. And once you have that placed, I also chose to make a change to this storeroom, because as I mentioned before, there is a cart in it and it was in the way. Now I do end up choosing a Stroud companionway here, so go ahead and do a Stroud companionway in place of that Deimos storeroom. Now you can cover that area back up. Now I want to make sure I put this door in the right place this time, so I'm moving this back one unit. And then I'm also adding a door 4 to the back of the 3x1 Deimos all-in-one berth. Make sure it is snapped correctly and put that right here. So the next thing was I wanted to add some passways to the lower deck as well. First one is going here, in between the science lab and the 3x1 Hope Tech engineering bay. And of course, on the opposite side of the ship, I wanted the same thing to open it up on both sides. So get the Hope Tech workshop out of the way and swap this door to a passway. And then you can move the workshop back into place. And of course your cowling feature. And then I also realized that I had chosen the Fortuna main hab empty, so I went ahead and swapped it to the Fortuna main hab that is pre-furnished. make sure that snapped back in the right location because it is huge and there's so many snapping points that it could connect to. Now, the last interior change that I made was in the engineering Habs. I had doors through there, and it felt kind of claustrophobic and unnecessary to have so many hatches. So I decided it would be a cooler experience to change all of the engineering deck doors to passways. So this is now a passway. This is going to be a passway. And this is going to be a passway. And then we just have to move our Habs back into place. Now I found that if you select all of these and move them, for some reason the builder gives you an unattached module error. So I would recommend moving the engineering deck Habs back into place one at a time. And then close it back up. So there is our completed ship, and of course it is time to paint. Now I'm going to skip my painting process because that would have been probably an hour of footage by itself at least. But when I got started, I selected the whole ship and then just deselected these cargo units to keep the metallic color that they already have. I didn't just want to do black on this ship, as that is usually what I tend to choose because I prefer it, but I went with a flat dark earth in black. The flat dark earth values are as follows. For hue, you want 10 units from the far left. For saturation, you need 32 units from the far left. And for the brightness, you need to go 12 units, or 12 clicks, I should say, from the far left. I really like the contrast of this FDE color with the black, and then the kind of burnt orange or burnt sienna color, whatever you want to call it, on the engines there, was an attempt to match the sort of bronze tone on the Starborn Avitus armor, which is what I like the best, and that's what my character is wearing. Now for blacks, I have one black that is one click from the far left in the brightness category, and another that is 7 clicks from the far left. I'll show you that in a moment. But the values for the kind of burnt orange color are 8 clicks from the far left in the hue bar, 0 from the far right, so full saturation. And in the brightness bar, you need 25 clicks from the far left. That will give you that burnt orange color, and just be aware that you may have to slightly adjust the hue or even the brightness depending on which parts you're applying this color to, because it really stands out with the subtle differences in brightness between parts. Now here is the light black or dark gray that is 7 clicks from the far left in the brightness bar. And those are the colors that I chose. Paint complete. And here I am realizing that I had chosen the wrong version of the XL09 Stroud bellies, so I'm just switching these, like I said, to the quote mid version that is square on each side. It doesn't have the taper on the inside like I originally placed, like you see here. That choice is up to you, but I just felt that they looked better with the squared off Stroud nose cap in front of them. And finally, you can breathe a sigh of relief because your Typhon is complete. The performance of this ship is absolutely blistering. The speed is incredible with a base top speed of 200, which is perfect for a solo player, but the top boost speed is over 1,650. This ship is so powerful that I dove into a bit of a rabbit hole with ship combat overhaul mods. I'm going to go over those in a separate video, but the combat in this build guide does not include those mods. So the combat you're going to see is all vanilla enemies, and it's insane. Before I give you a tour of the Typhon, I want to quickly take a jog further away from the landing pad to show you the absolute gravity of this build. This ship is massive in every way, but I have kept the length such that no major clipping really occurs at any landing pad. You might clip through a lamppost or a sign here and there, but in terms of major structures, this ship stays clear of all of them. Not only that, but all of your landing gear fits on the landing pad. And here's a quick shot of that Matilija spotlight shining right on the Rev 8 buggy. And we also get to see right now how centered the landing bay ramp is on the landing pad. So even though this is a rear-facing landing bay, you still don't have to run any further from any direction of the ship to get inside of it. So let's get in here and see how I've done on this one. When you enter, you're greeted with the 3x3 HopeTech cargo hull, this is the same as I did on the Citadel build, and part of the reason I chose it again because I liked that. It's the lowest deck of the ship, it should feel a little more utilitarian. Just behind the cargo hull is the infirmary, and I ran in here first to show you how convenient it is. And just as a quick mention, I do have the Functional Infirmaries mod installed, which allows Rosie Tannehill to actually be a doctor on board your ship. Now moving forward and port of the cargo hull, you have the HopeTech workshop. And on the starboard side, that hatch there is back to the cargo hull, but that was the HopeTech science lab. And here is a look at the docking port's, quote, airlock, which I think is a cool feature, and it would be awesome if we could actually have an airlock module where both doors or only one door would be open at a time. So maybe if anyone's got, some time on their hands, they could make a cool little 1x1 airlock hab module. Now moving towards the nose, this is the HopeTech 3x1 engineering bay. And it's kind of a nice way to segue into the nose ladder, which we are not going to climb yet. First, I want to go to the back of the ship and show you the layout of everything back there, as well as moving up one deck to the what I would call the habitation deck. So just above the cargo hall, we have the Nova 2x3 mess hall. And this is one of my favorite hab modules in the game. I just like the way it's laid out and the simplicity. And 4 of the mess hall is the Deimos 2x2 living quarters, which of course has 0 beds, and that's why I put the Deimos 3x1 all-in-one down here next to it, because it's got 4 beds. And this was also the reason for moving the starboard door from the location that would have removed 2 of those beds into this location. And the extra hatch is just there because why not? It's another way your crew can move about the ship freely. Now moving forward from the 2x2 living quarters, we move into the nose 1x1 that has the nose ladder shaft. But again, we're not going to climb that ladder yet. To the port side is another 1x1 with this window, and what a fantastic view of New Atlantis. Now we're going to move back to the rear of the ship, past the mess hall, and now we enter into the Nova 2x2 living quarters. This is the one with the pool table, of course. And on the back of the 2x2, we have 2 hatches leading to the Matilija 3x3x2 utility workroom. And this is a great center point, or kind of a collector area for a bunch of Habs, and that's exactly why I used it in this way. This is the 2x2 Nova all-in-one. And sometimes I kind of feel like I could swap the all-in-one with the living quarters. It might even make more sense that way. But just behind it, this is a 2x1 Stroud all-in-one. I think this is the B variant because we use the A variant on the port side. Now, entering through this workroom, this is one of my favorite features. The shooting range is just off of the workroom that's built into the Matilija hab. So that makes perfect sense. We'll close that up. And then move over to the port side of the ship through the workroom, and we have the Stroud 2x1 all-in-one berth A. Both of these have 4 beds, and again, I was going for enough beds such that the whole crew could sleep at one time if they needed to. Obviously, that's unnecessary within the game's mechanics, but it is still just something that I like to have for roleplay purposes. So this is the Deimos 2x2 living quarters, and now we can move up 1 level and check out the skylight into the core. And now I want to show you the brigs. So moving to the port side of the ship, we enter into the Stroud 2x2 brig into this little security office and open the hatch into what I'll call the cell block. But here's the kicker. We have another hatch that leads into the Deimos 2x2 brig, or in other words, the other cell block. So it's kind of like we have a cell block A and B in this ship, and this is what makes it so good for bounty hunting. And then we move into the Deimos security office within the brig. But before we go out here, which you can see we're back in the Matilija hab, but we're also going to take a quick look at the Deimos 2x1 armory that only has access through the brig's security office. And we're going to close this for security purposes. I wish I could station crew in those offices to really complete the immersion. Now, off the starboard side of the upper deck of the Matilija hab is the Stroud 2x2 cargo hull, and this was meant to be more of a supply storage for the crew of the ship, whereas the HopeTech 3x3 cargo hull serves more as a typical cargo hold, where heavier things, minerals and resources and such would be stored. And when we ascend the ladder up from the Matilija hab, we are greeted with the Deimos 2x2 engineering bay. Now, this side of the engineering bay is much more mechanical. It's got all the pipes and valves and tanks and things. And so to me, it just made sense to place the Deimos 3x1 engineering bay A on this side because it is the same. It has pipes and tanks and valves and all the mechanical stuff, and they just work well together. Here's the window to the core from this hab, and just a quick glance at the back, but you know, all these mechanical details between this hab and the 2x2 really just make them work well together. Because on this side of the 2x2, you have more of the techie kind of computer-based equipment, and of course a beautiful window looking down the length of the ship's oversized core. Now, the armillary would be visible right where I was just looking, and I'm going to fix that once we get to the bridge. But here is the Deimos 2x1 computer core. I really like this hab module. I try to use it as much as I can. And then this is the Deimos 3x1 engineering bay B, which, just like the near side of the 2x2 and the computer core, it is much more technological of a style for the engineering bay. And of course, our last stop in the rear of the ship is the engineering crew's living quarters. So on the port side, we have a Stroud 3x1 all-in-one berth, which has 4 beds. And of course, we have a shutter in case the core is going critical and the occupants within these habs need a quick way to shield themselves from the sudden and severe burst of radiation from the core overload. Now on the starboard side of the 1x1 with the ladder, we have a Deimos 3x1 living quarters. And yes, it only has 2 beds, but I think that's fine up here, as the other Hab has 4 already. And again, the shutter with the window to the core at the back of this Hab as well. Now I want to quickly mention one part that I missed, which is just below us in this Matilija Hab, and it's the security, built-in security room, I would say, that is directly connected to another armory. So on top of the armory for the brig complex in the back, you also have a separate armory for the security office that's built into the Matilija Hab. I'm sorry I skipped over that, I just realized it, and hopefully you guys enjoy that feature as well. Now here is the captain's armory at the nose of the ship, and just above that we have the captain's workshop. And the reason I put the workshop up here was because if I had attached these passways and 1x1s, as well as the door to the Fortuna Hab, which is the captain's quarters, I would have lost many of the racks that come in the armory. So it stayed on the level below so that I would have as much places to store weapons as I possibly could. And now the piece de resistance, the Fortuna main Hab. This is what I'm calling the captain's quarters of this ship. And that is the reason why I mentioned that this ship is perfect for a player who's role-playing as a master pirate or bounty hunter, or a Starborn that has been through the Unity more times than they can count. This is just an absolute breath of fresh air in the options that we have for Hab modules. I've been wanting, since the release of the game, access to the Trident line of ship modules that are more luxurious, but of course we haven't gotten them yet. So maybe there's a friendly modder out there that's listening to this that could potentially give us friendly players access to the Trident line of ship parts through a mod. That would be absolutely awesome. Now, the major difference with this to the actual Fortuna from the game is that the garden enclosed in glass behind us now was actually the bedroom within this module, and the room behind this office was basically a storage room. It was like a little private office, but you also have a couple weapon racks and a couple of mannequins for displaying your armor up here. And of course, if you choose the empty version of this Hab, you can decorate and furnish this however you see fit. But for me, I'll use this just fine. Someday I'll spend time decorating the inside of a ship. But currently I spend so much time developing them that the interior decoration may have to wait until I land in my preferred universe within the game after I'm done jumping through Unities for all of my powers and feel happy with the universe that I choose. And of course I just showed that you can enter building mode in here and do whatever you wish. So compared to the empty Hab, basically, you know, all of the furniture that you see in here would be gone. The lights, any of the fixtures and things like that. But otherwise, you know, it looks effectively the same on the inside, just very bare. So that is the Fortuna Hab. And of course, the last place we need to go is the bridge. And before I sit down and take us on a combat run through the settled systems this time, not just Serpentis, I'm going to run Serpentis, but I also take out the Spacer Scavenger Blatodea. I haven't found the other 2 legendary ships in this universe, so that is the only one that I can show you, but I also go to Crix and Mars and the Deimos Star Yard, and even to Jemison's orbit around the Eye as well. So the combat footage is all been cut into one big long supercut. I think I've broken that up into enough chapters that you all probably understand where I'm going. But if you experience an armillary that's not visible inside of your grav drive, all you have to do is remove it and rebuild it at your armillary screen in the bridge or the cockpit of your ship. So I'm going to run back here very quickly, just so you can see how the armillary looks at the back of the core. And now you can see the sort of reasoning behind the two Matilija shield boosters there was to appear as though they are carrying the energy from the armillary through to the rest of the ship in order to power it. So I thought that was a pretty cool way to sort of convey the power that the armillary has in the game. And now, with the yapping out of the way, let's take this thing for a spin.
colony space. Please maintain course and prepare to be scanned. We say again. Respond all. Craft drive down. We can't jump. Damn, that was the craft drive. The craft drive. Get it working. Shields up. Look alive. There goes the craft drive. We can't escape.
There won't be enough left for salvage when I'm done.
Craft drive online. We're not jumping out. Look alive.
Look alive!
They knocked out the craft drive.
Look alive!
Can't get away from me.
Gotta finish things quick! The crab drive's down! Look alive! Look alive!
Light you up.
I got it! Look alive!
We lost the craft drive.
Look alive!
Craft drive. Get it working.
Critical damage on the crab drive! Damn, crab drive is out! That's the mistake you'll ever make. Direct hit on the crab drive!
You are entering United Colony space. Maintain course and prepare to be scanned. Be advised.
Crab drive to the direct hit! Don't fly! Weapons primed! Moving to neutralize suspect!
Go! Go! Go!
The crab drive is out! Direct hit on the crab drive!
And there you have it. The proof is in the pudding, and the Typhon is very deserving of its name. If you've watched this whole video, thank you very much from the very bottom of my heart. It is thanks to those of you that watch the entirety of my videos that my channel has grown to nearly 10,000 subscribers in less than a year. And you know what that milestone means? A modded Basilisk is coming very soon. If you haven't joined the Discord yet, you can find the link in the description of this video or on my YouTube homepage. We'd love to see you over there and talk about Starfield even more. Thank you again. I'll see you in the next one.